Alright, hello and welcome everybody, and tonight I have Rowdyman, the clan leader of the Old Skool clan, one of the top, if not the top clan in the North American server. And today we're gonna be talking about what makes this clan special, how they got started, what kind of styles and what kind of suggestions they have got for you guys. Well, first off, let me welcome Rowdyman. Rowdy, say hello.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's begin. First, I'd like to ask you, how did your clan get started? Because when you guys got started, I was playing with Zeus, and we honestly didn't know. Suddenly, you guys just popped up out of nowhere. But tell me how it all got started.
Well, I'd been playing, tanks and ships, and I had a bunch of buddies there that played with me all the time. And when I moved to this game, they didn't want to come. They weren't, totally excited about this game yet. So I started a new clan just for Total Arena. And so I put in a post and just started building teammates with good people. Got to surround yourself with good people to look good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. So after you made the post, what happened? Who was your first crew?
Yeah, I started getting some stragglers right off, and we just started playing together. And next thing you know, we just started growing. I believe a lot of it, though, Ark, was that we were running group builds where people weren't doing that yet, and there wasn't a lot of team play yet, and until we started showing up and stuff. At least not in the North American server. So we
We
started hitting
started.
the field with a solid four man and a group build and starting to work together. And I tell you, people wanted to jump on board and join us, and so we slowly started to collect. We don't try to gather a bunch of bodies. We just try to gather one or two that are good and grow slow and strong.
That's a very good strategy and it's pretty interesting. Not to mention, you are very much right when it comes to organized play. There are just so few people that play this game in this serious, organized manner. I'm just so shocked that people do not realize the only way you're gonna surpass your personal limits is by joining a team, playing as a team, and winning those tournaments. And I saw you guys and I was pretty impressed. Like when I first saw, it, I was like, "Huh, what are these guys? They're playing pretty decent." And then the next game, the next game, the next game, it was like consistent. It was consistent, good performance, and people started to notice.
Yeah, that's good to hear. We try to bring some high standards of play. One thing we don't like to do is trash talk. So if we're going to trash talk, it's going to be with our gameplay, not with our keyboard typing. So we don't disrespect people. We look forward to other good teams. But yeah, we just want people to know that when they go up against us, that they better have their A game on. Otherwise, we're going to stick it to them. And if
Yeah,
we can't outmuscle them, Ark, we're going to try to outsmart them.
good point. Good point. Yeah, the I feel like that's definitely a good cornerstone to establish for a clan, that you're not there to trash talk, because I've seen so many people just full of talk and not much action, always comes up with excuses and things like that. Those people just don't amount to much. And I'm very happy to see that you guys are more about the action rather than the word. So I feel like that's one of the nice things that stands out. Like when I see Old Skool. One other thing that stands out, you were in your post, you were looking specifically for older people. Why is that? Outside of the obvious stuff.
Yeah, I was looking for teammates that are like-minded.
Hmm.
And so I was, over age 30, or if you like to hang out with people over age 30. Um, and so, on my post, you know, wrote down some other funny things on that just to
Mm-hmm.
be a little comic, but basically I was looking for like-minded people, and Old Skool the term is based on a philosophy of thinking. Okay,
Hmm.
so we all think old school way, where you know what bathroom you're using, and in today's age, some people don't know what bathroom to use.
I love it. Oh man, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. And you're absolutely right. Having those like-minded people. This reminds me of one thing that I know I keep saying. I don't know if I've told you before, but back in my days when I played World of Warcraft, I had this clan leader who was way older than me, and we were recruiting new people. So I was an officer, and I was looking at this guy, and I barely knew him. His equipment wasn't very good. He didn't do many raids, but he was accepted despite that. And we were in high tiers and all that. And I went to the clan leader and asked, "Why are we taking this guy? You know, there are dozens of people who are waiting with a lot better gear, a lot better experience." And he said, "You know, equipment we can grind, experience we can teach, but personality we're not going to be able to teach that. And this guy has been playing with us on and off for a while. He's got a really nice personality. He is willing to learn, and that's why I'm willing to take a shot," he said. And at that point, that's what I realized. Just having those like-minded people is a very good long-term investment, because you also need when your clan starts getting successful, that success starts getting into people's heads. So they start behaving differently, and if they don't have kind of their personality established, it's gonna make some problems. In fact, that's one of the fascinating things that I found about your clan, which is you had let's not give any names, but you had a few controversial members that were very vocal in the community. So a lot of people assumed. And quite a few people that I talked to, that by getting those like-minded people, everybody was kind of a little toxic over there. But you guys proved people wrong, because you were very positive in the community. You were complimenting people. You were reaching out not to just myself, but to other people, and were establishing a good image. Do you think that's like a winning strategy for is this part of your goals, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Honor, integrity, loyalty, these are important qualities that we look for in teammates. We don't care if you're the high scorer, if your win weight's 58%. None of that stuff matters. What matters to us, if can you play as a team? Can you play just as a solid teammate? And so that's what we look for. We don't care about the high score. As a matter of fact, if a team's playing well, no one should be high score. It should all be pretty even. Um,
Yeah,
and so,
good point.
but as far as the toxic thing is, anytime, and this is out to any other clan leaders out there, anytime you gather a good group of guys together that are competitive, you can have a couple toxic personalities, and I do recommend weeding them out. You don't want caustic, toxic people. It will give your clan a bad name.
Yeah, exactly. And another experience from me was we had those people. This was I think World of Warcraft, and that's exactly what happened. Eventually, people just started not want to join, and as people started retiring, we could not replace those people who left, and those and we could not get newcomers. The clan could not expand, and eventually it died off. So I feel like you're onto something there by establishing a good guild reputation. You're making a future for the clan. So I also like that you emphasize being able to play as a team. What would you say is important? Like, let's talk to the audience, and what would you say is important when it comes to playing as a team? How would you know if a person can play as a team or not? How is there like a checklist? What do you look for?
A checklist isn't a bad idea, Ark, but no, um, what it's real basic. We try to group up with them. Either me or my squad leaders or officers will try to group up with a new player. And within a game or two, you can tell. Number one thing is, do they follow direction? When you say pull back, are they pulling back or are they still pushing? Okay. And when you say pull
Mm-hmm.
back, when you pull back the second time and they don't pull back, well, that guy is not looking like a teammate. Um,
Yeah.
and so when people need to follow direction to the one guy driving, because, and that's the other thing too, to anyone else out there, one guy drives the squad. Now, you other people can talk about what's happening in the immediate battle, but one person drives. Either you drive to win or you drive to defeat, but you drive together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can have co-pilots, you can have like captains. Like for example, in a recent tournament, me and Dark Dust were playing, and I was commanding the southern team, he was commanding the north team, and we could do that because we were in opposite sides of the map. But if we're all together, it's gonna be a lot more chaotic. And some people can do that. We actually pull it off, but I don't think it's something that can be reliably worked upon. It requires people's personalities not to clash, and that's something very rare in my opinion. But I'm glad you really mentioned that people being able to follow orders. I also would like to clarify it in a sense that it doesn't mean that you need to have a great micro. Like when people say pull back, pulling back literally requires you drag your units and click. That's like less than a second.
Right. Uh,
So yeah.
well, and getting back capped is the thing we hate the most, and it's how we lose most of our
Yes.
matches.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty sure every single clan out there, number one problem is getting ninja capped, back capped, and in fact, that seems to be like a meta for clans that are not camping, that just do not wish to camp. Is that capture the strategic points and then retreat back to base to prevent that ninja cap, do that damage, and that way divide and conquer to win. And do you agree with that idea?
Yeah, I sure do. We're pretty aggressive, and so it's really hard for us as a team to sit back for very long. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's like holding the reins of a stallion back, trying to hold this team from pushing. And so there's a fine balance between pushing out, kill some, and then fall back and defend.
How do you resolve in-clan conflicts? Have you ever had any of those? What would be your approach to those? Like people, sometimes people get personality clashes. Sometimes people do not agree on the strategy. How do you interfere with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. First off, you're right. You will have personality conflicts anytime you get a bunch of guys together that are competitive, especially when they feel that their strats and stuff are as strong as yours. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you gave them always a chance to drive in the future, but the number one thing we do to hold down is if you got a problem with a teammate, you talk to them in private. Okay, we don't want
Mm-hmm.
anyone being called out in the middle of a match for a mistake or something they're doing wrong. I don't want anyone embarrassed, and that's not the way to solve a problem. If you got a problem with a player, you pull them to the side, you talk to them in private. Now, if they do that and it still isn't resolved, then I tell them to come to me, and I'll make a
Mm-hmm.
judgment call.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty solid approach. And one other thing that I wanted to ask, what would you say are like the core frameworks when making a strategy for Old Skool? Like, what would you say uh, kind of would be a signature move for Old Skool? Like, I recently was watching the gameplay that you sent with the game that you sent, and I was pretty fascinated because that was a pretty unorthodox move with the barbarian archers with the light infantry as your core. That's something really new to me. So would you say is that how you approach it? That very aggressive, strike hard and fast sort of thing? Is that the Old Skool signature?
Yeah, pretty much. We like fast units that can move, not so much big, heavy armored units that can't even go into the woods. Um, Bread and butter play is a strat that we use, and it was the basic strat we started with. It's the strat that we built the clan with, and it's no big secret. I thought about, should I share this or not? But all the good players out there already see what we're doing, and we're not doing anything special. They copy what we do, we copy what they do. So here's the strat for those who are just starting, wanting to learn something basic. All right, you got pikes and spears up front, you got archers and jabs in the back, and you got fast spears or fast infantry in the backfield as Overwatch. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
your pikes and spears are your front line, they're point man, right? Your archers and jabs are in the middle, and you got fast infantry or spears in the backfield overwatching the archers and the jabs. You move as a group, you don't get clumped, but you move as a group and work together. And that's our basic strat, and we've gone from that and to a couple different hybrids. Um, but
Hmm.
that's the one that if you're a clan starting out and you want your team to gel, that's an easy strat to learn. And it still is super effective even today. I mean,
Oh yeah,
just
you're absolutely right.
that video that you were talking about was a bread and butter play with a little hybrid. We're starting to bring some split groups now, so that's a little advanced, but
Oh yeah, the split groups, I believe we're gonna see that a lot more in the future because right now you can only have four-man groups, and if you can't queue together and be on the same side, that's just not gonna work for now. Until then, it's gonna be very difficult to practice those split groups, but hopefully in the future we will be able to practice those. So the pre-last question of mine would be, let's say people are interested in joining Old Skool. How should they go about it? How would you say people recruitment should happen?
well, we've got a post on the one forums that if they can find us and join our Discord, or just PM me or one of the officers or squad leaders. Typically, what we're looking for though is someone that's got at least a tier 5 that shows they've played,
Mm-hmm.
and then we play with them and just make sure that they're good quality people. And if we like them, then we put them right in, and if there's a problem with them, then we may play with them a little more to see if they're going to. I tell you what, one of the biggest problems, Ark, is having guys wanting to make the right freaking unit. Excuse my language.
Hmm.
Um, okay, there's always tons and tons of Cav players, and I don't group Cav players much unless it's a 6-man or 10-man.
Mm-hmm.
For group play, I like working with solid infantry squads and getting them to work together and gel together, because
Yeah.
in my humble opinion, that's the bread and butter of the game, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Cav players are a dime a dozen, and everybody wants to play Cav.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
if I got a new guy and he's only a Cav player and he's not willing to make another style of unit, I probably won't put him on board. But if he shows willing to make something we need and still play Cavs though, but still is making units we need for the team, then I'm golden on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the best players I know have a main commander and an alt commander. Not just that, I've seen recent in the past few months a lot of players who used to play only a specific type of cavalry, mostly either Greek cavalry or only Roman cavalry. They're starting to diversify. Now you've got people, when you say cavalry, their main can be Vercingetorix with an alt of Scipio or Alexander, whichever. That adds quite a bit of diversity. But as you said, a lot of people still, like, there's still a lot of people who fall in that category. Sure, it's a lot less niche, so you can still find some spot for it. However, you should be ready to diversify. Personally, when I started this game, I was maining Germanicus with the idea that it will be easier to call the shots if I don't have to think much. But that turned not to be true, and Germanicus, that was my main, can only influence the battle so much. And eventually, a few months ago, I decided to main Caesar, who was my alt at the time. That was before the closed beta, and since then, supports are always in every game are on a huge demand. And in my opinion, before you pick your mains, what you're going to specialize, take kind of get a feel for the competitive scene on what they need, because it's always a supply and demand, don't you think?
It is, and on our post we put that we expect you to make one infantry or one archer squad as a main. Period.
Hmm.
And so I expect every teammate to have one of those two units of our basic bread and butter play, to be able to. Now, for all the players out there, please don't think I'm bad mouthing Cav. All right, the Cav is needed and well, and Cav is a great to play solo, right? But for group play, it's harder to work Cav into the group.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that plays Cav commonly doesn't learn to gel with the group well, because he's off
Yeah.
doing his own thing.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. That happens so often that yeah, I would definitely would say, because they're the supply and demand. I agree, there are some great cav players out there. Cav is a necessary unit for every army, but you need to diversify. You need to make yourself versatile if you are to win consistently, because that's the name of the game. The way you determine, if you look at any other game like Hearthstone, I don't know, League of Legends, whichever MOBA you can think of, people do not win 100%. The only people who do are cheating, and usually over 70% win rate is considered good, like really, really good. Like that's your reaching competitive level. And in order to get that, in order to be able to synergize with people, I believe you need to have, as you said, multiple alts who can fulfill multiple roles, just so that you can play well with your team. Don't you think?
Yeah, and what's great too is, let's say we've got teammates that started off with archers and now they're rolling spears, right?
Mm-hmm.
And lower level, they're at tier fives and stuff. But what's great about that is they're switching the role and they're learning now the different roles. And so when they're back on archers, they also know how difficult it is for the spears to keep them alive. And so they learn to work together a lot quicker. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So to finish it up, what would you suggest for the new people who are watching? How can they get into this competitive scene? What would you suggest to them?
Well, you want to start with a solid four man and build from there. All right. And you build your four-man strat. It doesn't matter. I gave everyone one that we use. Make your own, though. There's tons of ways to roll this. Learn it and then learn to execute it. Having a strat is just part of the plan. Learning to execute it and execute it well is the other half. So I recommend that anyone's wanting to build their own clan or you start with a solid four man and go from there.
Absolutely. And if you cannot build your own clan, just don't have the time or the patience or whatever you think, the definitely joining a clan that shares your values, has like-minded people, I believe is gonna be the key to be successful, to have the most amount of fun from this game, whether you're playing it casually or competitively. Don't you think?
Yes, it is. That's correct. Having a group of guys that gel together, it's a great feeling. And sometimes, Ark, I play against my own team a lot, and we just had a great tournament, 10 on 10, with two of our squad leaders, and it was just a blast. And sometimes I just sit back and it's a thing of beauty to watch a group move together and
Mm-hmm.
work together. My mouth drops open and I'm in awe, and I'm like, God, I love that, even if they're kicking my butt.
Oh, I know what you mean. It is definitely a sight to behold. Well, that's all the time we had. Thank you very much, Rowdyman, and with the old school, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. We'll see you on the field.